And so it's not like when you play some of these teams that are incompetent. Frankly, the formula, if you will, we should trademark that. The formula. Put that on a t-shirt. And the question is from Brett. And Brett emailed and he goes, preseason, I would have been happy with 8 wins. Now I feel like anything less than 10 wins and playoff appearance is a letdown. In your opinions, how does the team need to finish for it to be a success? I think this is a really interesting question because I do think that there is some room for differing opinions here. And I actually, even myself, have on some level differing opinions, if you will, because I think no matter how you slice it, based off of the longest of views, this is already a success. Like, you just have to acknowledge that this team has done far better and already, like, think about where we were in April, right? It was like, hey, if they get the draft pick right at 2 and they get the right quarterback, then everything else is gravy. It doesn't matter if they don't win a game in 2024. Like, as long as it's clear they have their guy for the future. And, at that point, we were also like, hey, they could, that guy might not play if he's not ready yet. And then maybe he comes in October, late October, early November, struggles a little bit, but then gets it going. And by the end of 2024, if he is in a good place, then, and we're just confident that the franchise is headed the right direction with a franchise quarterback for the future, then we can roll with that. We're so far beyond that. For the first half of the season, Jayden Daniels was legitimately an MVP candidate in the NFL. And I don't think he's got enough runway left to catch Saquon and to catch Josh Allen. So I don't think he's going to get back in that. But he very convincingly, I think, could be a top 10 finisher in MVP voting this year. I haven't done the math on that, but if I just think quickly about, well, there's 14 playoff teams, and he's going to be the starting quarterback on one of them and one of the main drivers of success on that team, then by nature, he's probably up there. Saquon, obviously, Josh Allen, Lamar, and what he's doing in Baltimore. Russ, probably has a say, although they were 4-2 before he took over, but he's taken their offense to a different level. Like, there's a bunch of guys that are on the back half of that top 10 that don't really belong in the true MVP conversation. And Jayden being amongst that list as a rookie is a hell of an accomplishment. And so I think that no matter what, you have to see this season as a success in the long term. But at this point, if they don't make the playoffs, that would be tremendously disappointing. Because if you are thinking about trajectory, hey, hot start. If they don't make the playoffs, it means they had a cold finish. Unless like one of these teams rips off, like if the Rams go 4-0 down the stretch and the Seahawks go 3-1, and the only Seahawks loss is to the Rams in that final game of the regular season. So pick one of those two, and the Commanders go 2-2. And the Seahawks, wind up stealing that last wild card spot, and the Commanders went 2-2 down the stretch. And yeah, it's probably still be disappointing, but at least, hey, it's a 10-win season, and live with that, and is what it is. But if they were to go 1-3 down the stretch, or God forbid 0-4, like especially considering who's on the schedule, like that would be tremendously disappointing. And it does matter from here. I do think you are allowed to, and again, I try not to tell people what to do with their feelings. I just express my own, and I think I'm a rational person, so that's good. I think it's perfectly rational and perfectly fine to adjust your expectation as you go. The team has proven they're capable of X. We thought they were only capable of like Q. So why shouldn't we hold them to X? They're going to hold themselves to X. I think that's the other thing. If they miss the playoffs, or they, stumble down the stretch, they're going to be tremendously disappointed. And then the question becomes, how do they channel that? Do they funnel it into an offseason full of rage spent on getting better, or are there cracks in the foundation? Is there a lack of belief? And I just don't think that's the case. I think they've proven who they are, what they're made of, and that should be good enough for them to make the playoffs. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. We'll take calls on how you feel about that next on a Vibe Check Tuesday. 301-230-0980. Quickly before we hit the break, Anthony, do you have any initial thoughts on the back end here of the idea of this season and success through either a short or long-term lens?
I mean, I'm more so happy where we are. I think I'm more so just at a point where, yes, we're 8-5. Yes, we have a chance at the playoffs, and I want a little bit more, but I'm just not going to get my hopes too high to the point where I'm like so upset and calling for it left and right to be fired or anything. It's more so just I'm okay with the process, and the process just has us above, where we all anticipated us being at the end of the season. Like nobody envisioned us being 8-5, 14 weeks through the season. So again, I'm happy with where we are. I do want a little bit more. I'm still chomping at the bit, but at the same token, I understand this isn't a championship roster. We probably will play some of those teams that have championship rosters to a good game, and we, can be left saying, what if we did this and had we done this? But at the same token,
what if we had a championship roster? Like, what happens when Adam Peters sinks his teeth into free agency and another draft?
Yeah, we got some time then. We got some time. But I'm more so just talking about this year, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, here's the thing. No matter what, you're going to be bummed at the end of the year. The nature of losing your last game, unless this team pulls off the miracle and threads the needle all the way to a Super Bowl, if this team winds up as the 7th seed and faces the Eagles and loses to them in the playoffs, even though we all acknowledge the Eagles are a better roster, that's going to hurt. That's going to sting. Then you take a week and you go, or a couple of days, and you go, hey, they're the better team. They've been building for a long time. They've paid a bunch of vets a bunch of money, and we're coming for their next year. Have your expectations changed for the Commanders in 2024? And I guess, Anthony, the more I think about it, the more I sat in the break and kind of really pondered here, I'd be pretty disappointed if they did not finish at least 2-2. And 2-2 is kind of giving them one. And this is purely based off schedule, right? Let's run through it. Dan Quinn hates this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Sorry, Dan. We have a radio show to fill. First game, New Orleans Saints. They're terrible. And they're starting Jake Haener. Often you're terrible. All due respect to Jake Haener. I'm so sorry that Jake Haener, he's a fine college player. He's better at playing quarterback than I could ever dream of being. I'm not saying that I could be Jake Haener. Just Jake Haener's borderline an NFL quarterback. So on a lot of situations, you'd be bad because you're starting Jake Haener. The Saints were bad and they're starting Jake Haener. You got to win this game. Doesn't matter if it's a road game. Doesn't matter New Orleans is a tough place to play. Doesn't matter any of that stuff. You're coming off a bye. You're facing the Saints. They're starting Jake Haener. You must win that football game. Eagles game, that's tough. Would love to see them win it. If they do, sick. Then just please don't trip over yourself on the way across the finish line. But that one's tough. The Falcons game is potentially tough, but they're playing pretty crappy football right now. Offensively, they're a mess. I don't know if the formula works quite as well against Atlanta, but it also kind of does. Like the Commanders' formula of like, let's get up on a team early and then they can't pass back. Like Kirk can still sling it. It seems like if you give him enough opportunities, he's going to throw it to you eventually. And so it's not like when you play some of these teams that are incompetent. Frankly, the formula, if you will, we should trademark that, the formula. Put that on a T-shirt. That works better against Philly. Like Jalen Hurts has to drop back and read out a defense. That's not his game. He threw for 108 yards last week. Kirk, he's thrown for like 500 this year at times. He's also thrown for 4 picks in a game. So that's a bit of a wild card. And then Dallas, last night was the end of the road for Dallas. Micah's walking off the field upset, and I'm not mad at Micah. That's not criticizing him. Like, that dude is just like fed up. He's like, what more do I have to do? That injury, feel absolutely terrible for DeMarion Overshown. Really, really brilliant young player who just absolutely shredded his knee, unfortunately. He's got ACL, MCL, PCL is the reporting. So all of the ligaments pretty much in your knee. He's going to have to get that reconstructed, and hopefully he can come back and be an impact player. But that's really, really tough. So they're without one of their best on defense. And, like, if I'm CeeDee Lamb, I'm probably being like, yo, I'm good to get to the offseason healthy. Cooper Rush is already playing quarterback. Like, I know they lost to him already, but you better go down there and beat the pants off the Dallas Cowboys in Week 18. Send Mike McCarthy out with the loss that he deserves. And if you think of it through that lens, they don't win at least those 2 games. I know it's the NFL. I know everything, anything can happen. I'm Mr. It's the NFL. Anything can happen. You better win those 2 games. And if not, then you obviously don't deserve to make the playoffs. But really, you should win those 2 plus the Atlanta game. And so if you finish anything less than 2-2 and you don't make the playoffs, like, at that point, you haven't played up to your standard. And I think that is disappointing. And I actually don't really have a problem saying that out loud, even while acknowledging, like, you know what? In the long term, it's probably fine. Maybe it's the fire that lights beneath them for the future, but you really, really should get those final 2, or 2 of the final 2, if not 3 of the final 4. Or say 2 of the final 4, if not 3 of the final 4.
Yeah, and I think also to your point, I feel as though with the bye week, the time off, I feel like some of the problems that we had during that rough stretch where we lost 3 straight, I think we should have been able to, address or, fix some of those problems. Especially, being able to, like, get healthy. I know that was a huge thing. And then also just getting back to, like, or I guess reassessing what our identity is as we, move towards this final stretch of the season. If we can do some of the things that we were able to do early in the season and get back to that, being at full health, I definitely think we should be able to go out there and beat a Jake Haener?
Haener. Yeah.
Haener. Yeah.
You don't have a big Jake Haener final?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you, Anthony? Are you professional or not?
Jake Haener led Saints team. And then we'll see if we can finally, beat a good team in the Eagles. And then hopefully we close the year strong with a win over the Falcons and the Cowboys. But I definitely think we need to figure out what our identity is, get back to it in these next couple of games.
Apparently Spencer Rattler might be available for this game. He's been hurt. But I did a quick Google of Jake Haener because I was going to do a surprise pop quiz Jake Haener trivia. First of all, Derek Carr hasn't technically been ruled out.
Nope.
Also, the first line of this article on Saints Wire from USA Today is Derek Carr's season may be over. So really a big maybe not. That's not really 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. That's like 6 of one, 38 of the other.
Yeah, I was listening to the Saints head coach, and he was talking about he has a concussion he has to get through, but he's also week to week with a hand injury, and he tried to compare it to, I think, Josh Allen. He was the one that played with, like, one hand or, like, a fractured thumb, or it might have been Herbert, one of those quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look good. I don't think they should rush him out there just because the dude is beat up, and their season sort of kind of looks like it's going nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know why you would do that. I mean, Carr, he's a football player. He's going to want to play. But, yeah. The thing is, like, if I were them, I would start Rattler. Like, if that's an option.
He's the one that started the other game.
Yeah, he's not good.
Yeah.
But, like, he's a rookie with some serious upside. Like, there's a lot of people that really like Spencer Rattler as a talent. And he was terrible. He took a ton of sacks. Like, if he start either way, like Jowett Jr. should have a feast this week with pressure packages, and now you have what's it called? Marshawn Lattimore on the outside, like, so you can dial up some more man stuff, and, like, you can play the way you want to play. Because it's not like the Saints don't have any receivers either. Like, Olave's out, like Dante Pettis, Marquez Valdez-Scantling
Yep.
is one of their top guys. Like, they're really not talented. Like, unbelievably not talented on that side of the ball. So I would probably just, unless you're like, hey, we just want to, as an organization, if you're the general manager, do you go down and be like, hey, look, interim head coach, you're going to play Jake Haener because we don't want Spencer Rattler to have to play under these circumstances, and we we'll have a new head coach, or when the new offensive coordinator is here, we'll have him evaluate our guys. But it's you have to win this game.
Yeah.
Like, again, and you have to. I'm not saying if you lose, you get fired or whatever like that. Like, I always kind of think the must win, whatever, is kind of silly because look, they win this game, then win the Philadelphia game. Well, they went the same 1-1 everyone expected. But this is, I think the right way to phrase it is this is an extraordinarily winnable game. One of the, like, if either one of these guys starts, legitimately one of the easiest NFL games that you could ask for, because offensively they are sideways. And if you can get up on them early, which their defense has got a little bit of bite to it, but not a lot. If you can get what you need to offensively early, and Alvin Kamara is not running, then they're just going to hand the ball to Alvin Kamara 40 times. I still might hand the ball to Alvin Kamara 40 times. But then they have no chance of coming back on you. You have a first quarter like you had against Tennessee or Arizona or Carolina, like that game's over before halftime. Like they shouldn't even play the second half. Mm-hmm. They have that little of hope. But we'll see. We'll see. You say these things and then you realize like, oh, wow, my skis, they're back there. I may have gotten a little bit over them because they did win last week. Now Carr played most of the game and they were playing the Giants, who are terrible. But it is going to be an uphill battle for the Saints, and so hopefully the Commanders can appropriately play the role of the hill, if you will, on Sunday.